Why do they doubt the kid? I'm about to prove them all wrong again. I got a low tolerance, cause they don't even know what the problem is. It's me. You waiting on the boy to fail, then hold your breath and face your death. Cause you play a roulette with each step. I progress, no less. Go ahead and place your bets. Cause we know who we at, we know we top tier. Cause all the hate that you bring, we know it stops here. I'm taking off like a rocket here, ain't stopping here. It's strange how they cannot see the future, but see profit here. Wait up, we gon' always win. Tell 'em I can't take no loss. My team hold no L's, no. Aiming for the top, can't make it by myself.
Welcome, everybody. Yeah, here we go. A Thursday show. Yeah, I'm excited. Scott and I are very excited. We did a lot of research, and we've laid out a narrative that I know you're going to get into. It's super interesting. By the way, football starts today. I would be more excited about it, but it's Detroit. Screw you, Detroit fans, Green Bay fans, Minnesota fans. And by the way, the Bears are taking the division this year. We're going to go 18-0. Yeah, I know there's only 17 games on the schedule. We'll make it happen. We're going to go 18-0 this year. Just to let you know. Now, we got some other stuff to get into. We got some, obviously, it's football. Obviously, that excites me, but somehow this excites me more. Yesterday, I had to play you some clips of Dems getting into it with each other, right? Booker blocking 5 bills that would fund police, community, right? Blocked it because he's afraid the DOJ is going to weaponize this funding, which historically he's right. So he and the people who presented the bills and they got the unanimous consent, Booker blocked it, big argument, Dems getting at each other's throats. Not cool. In my eyes, not cool. Today, it's my pleasure to present you the other side of that coin. Infighting, political infighting, party infighting. The other side, the Republicans. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You see, there's a bill called called the Honest Act. Okay, formerly known as the PELOSI Act. We'll get into her involvement. But the Honest Act has made its way to the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee. Who's on that committee? Real quick. The majority, the Republicans, are Rand Paul, Ron Johnson, James Lankford, Rick Scott, Josh Hawley, Bernie Moreno, Joni Ernst, and Ashley Moody. Some unsavory names on that list. I know. Yeah, we're going to hear from them. The minority members, the Democratic members, are Gary Peters, Maggie Hassan, Richard Blumenthal, John Fetterman, Andy Kim, Ruben Gallego, and Alyssa Slotkin. We're going to hear from some of them as well. What is the bill? What is the act? The act would, and by the way, this is introduced by Josh Hawley, Republican. Keep that in mind. We're going to show you how this is playing out and Josh Hawley's role in it. This was introduced by Josh, the Republican. It would prohibit members of Congress and their spouses from purchasing, selling, or holding individual stocks or similar financial instruments while in office. Now, there's details they get into here, things they argue about, get at each other's throat about, concerning the fine print, right? But why is this such a big issue? Why is this happening? This is the result of immense pressure by the public over gains made specifically in the COVID era. Now, this has been happening. As you know, this has been happening for a while. Congress people going to select committees, meetings involving large companies, then immediately leaving them and making trade maneuvers, right? Immediately after leaving meetings and committee oversight, they immediately go and they make trades. But the COVID era, that was particularly egregious. This is what you can really point to when you say, why are they doing this? Richard Byrd, I'm just going to go over the senators, the egregious senators during the COVID era. House members did it as well. We only have so much time. Richard Burr, Republican on North Carolina, as chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Burr attended closed COVID-19 briefings in late January and then February of 2020. During that period, the January-February 2020 period, he sold up to 1.6 or, depending on 1.7 in stocks across 33 transactions, reportedly avoiding approximately $87,000 in losses and locking in about $164,000 in gains. It doesn't end there. Kelly Loeffler, Republican out of Georgia, immediately after the January 24th, 2020 COVID briefing, Loeffler and her husband, Jeffrey Sprecher, a New York Stock Exchange chairman, sold stocks worth between 1.3 and 3.1 million, okay, and bought others that later surged. There was an ethics investigation by the Senate and Justice Department that were later dropped mid-2020. And by the way, Burr was also investigated by the DOJ and the SEC. No charges filed. David Perdue, a Republican out of Georgia, between February 2020 and April 2020, Perdue made 112 trades, selling around $825,000 in stock and purchasing approximately $1.8 million in others, including industries that benefited from the pandemic stimulus and recovery. And Jim Inhofe, Republican out of Oklahoma, and Dianne Feinstein, Democrat out of California, both were among several senators reported to have sold stock following COVID-related briefings, though specific dollar amounts weren't disclosed in available sources. So that's just a few examples. Some of the more egregious stuff, highlighting the amounts they made and the exact crisis that facilitated this windfall, right? They used a crisis and the meetings following to net a windfall right then and thereafter. Very obvious, very easy to point to. Why would you have this bill, this act? Right here, among other reasons. We're going to hear from Josh Hawley. He introduced this thing.
We have an opportunity here today to do something that the public has wanted us to do for decades, and that is to ban members of Congress from profiting on information that, frankly, only members of Congress have in the buying and selling of stock. 86% of Americans say that members of Congress should not be able to buy and sell shares of stock, individual stock, while they are members of this body, and they are absolutely correct. And the reason for all of this is that, quite frankly, members of this body are privy to information that the normal person just is not. Now, is that insider trading? It is not under the laws. Sometimes people say, well, we already have insider trading laws. We don't need a stock ban. Well, the information that members of Congress are privy to is technically not covered by the insider trading laws, but nobody really believes that the information that we get isn't valuable. It is quite valuable, which is why back during COVID, you saw members of Congress of both parties engage in a flurry of stock trading right after they were getting COVID briefings. Were members of the public getting those briefings? They were not. Were members of the public privy to the kind of information that was being given to members of Congress? No, they were not.
He's talking about what I just explained to you. So you're up to speed on what Hawley's concerned about, what Josh Hawley is concerned about. And by the way, I feel your discomfort. Here's Josh Hawley, noted Trump sycophant and just, overall disreputable Senate Republican. You've grown to hate Josh Hawley. I have as well. I only encourage you to keep in mind, absolutes are a very rare thing. Total absolutes are a very rare thing. And in Josh Hawley's case, he's not absolutely evil, right? There is degrees. Is he 99% or 95% a piece of crap? Possibly. Here is an example. Here is that 5% on display. Just get good with it now, because you're going to end up siding with Josh Hawley in this whole thing. And so just get good with it now. All right? There will be plenty of your disdain to go around, I promise you. Let me continue. Let me continue. So save your disdain for one Senator Rick Scott, as he is vocal on this issue, as he is a notorious piece of crap. Let's hear from Rick Scott, and then we'll get into what this guy says.
So how do you do it? I mean, I don't understand how you sell it.
Are you asking me, Senator Scott?
So in here, there's a requirement.
This is the same. This is the same. You're concerned about the illiquid asset provision,
right? So I just want to.
It's the same one you voted for last year.
So how's it work? So
what's identical to the one you voted for in committee last year?
So it
hasn't been changed.
Well, maybe we should go through and better understand it. Okay.
That's fine. I just want to be clear that it hasn't changed since you voted for it last year.
Okay. Okay. Can anybody explain how the illiquid, how you sell an illiquid asset? If you can't sell, an asset is illiquid because you can't sell it.
Okay, he's talking about an illiquid asset provision. What's an illiquid asset? It's an asset that's not easily sold for cash, okay? Unlike liquid assets, like publicly traded stock or cash, illiquid assets take time and effort to sell. What's an example? An example is real estate, retirement accounts, collectibles, private equity, certain bonds are in there, and businesses. Those are all considered liquid assets. And Rick is saying, oh, I have a problem here because these things, I'm going to lose money if you make me sell these things. I'm going to lose money. These aren't easy to sell. I don't like the language in here. The language he agreed to, by the way, as he is a Republican who advanced this when it was originally introduced a year ago. Okay, so he signed off on this, and now all of a sudden, and we're going to build this a little bit, all of a sudden Rick Scott says, my liquid assets. Well, let me hip you a little bit to this act. What is prohibited in this act? Individual stocks, bonds, future contracts, options, cryptocurrencies, commodities, and similar financial instruments. You didn't hear anything I described under the illiquid assets really described here. He's actually fairly safe. His illiquid assets are actually fairly safe under the current language of this act. That's bullcrap. It's bullcrap. Okay? The Honest Act does not specifically cover real estate. Oh, does not cover real estate. Mutual funds, ETFs or exchange-traded funds, U.S. Treasury bonds, blind trusts, and we'll get to the blind trusts in just a second. That is a point of contention that we're going to get to. And ownership stakes in private companies or businesses, Rick Scott. So everything you just cried about and Hawley effectively shut you down on was bullcrap. Bullcrap. We're going to hear from another dirtbag. Yeah, I'm just going to kind of go there with the rhetoric because this really this should upset you that anybody would stand in the way of this clearly reasonable, common sense, fair act that absolutely speaks to the heart of the swamp. MAGA, you don't like the swamp, right? It doesn't get any swampier than this. Okay? So yeah, I'm going to talk about these guys this way. Here's Ron Johnson.
You could relabel this law, quite honestly, the Career Politician Protection Act, because it'll make it so unattractive for people to give up their business, sell it, unless some ethics committee says, oh, no, there won't be a conflict of interest. I mean, when we pass a tax law that lowers tax rates, we all benefit. It's just an inherent issue. So again, we have plenty of protections. We have the disclosure. This is a completely unnecessary piece of legislation. It's going to create all kinds of unintended consequences. Senator Scott just pointed out one of them, just one of them. So again, I voted no last time. I'm a strong no this time, even stronger this time.
Okay. He's saying this might as well be called the Career Politician Act because you're going to discourage business owners in the private sector, successful business people in the private sector from running. Good. That's more of the damn swamp. Because what this will do, it will re-encourage teachers, farmers, people that live in your community, people that are worried about your interests. They live in your community. They share your interests. That's how this was founded. That's how our country was founded. You would send your nearby farmer that's really intelligent and you think he can or she can, represent your needs. Maybe you're a farmer too, or some businessman that's really, really astute in your community, not some rich, giant corporate CEO, but somebody who's made a good life that knows your struggle in your community. That's what this used to be. Yeah, go ahead and discourage the mega corporate CEOs, please. Please discourage them.
It's time for a quick break, then we break some more. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things. Brett Breaks Things, fighting for America one mic drop at a time.
When we pass a tax law that lowers tax rates, we all benefit. It's just an inherent issue. So again, we have plenty of protections. We have the disclosure. This is a completely unnecessary piece of legislation. It's going to create all kinds of unintended consequences. Senator Scott just pointed out one of them, just one of them. So again, I voted no last time. I'm a strong no this time, even stronger this
time. Now, I replayed that, just the end of it, because I didn't get to everything I wanted to get to concerning what this guy just said. All right, now I told you, he's worried about we're going to discourage mega rich donors, CEOs, and business people from coming into Congress. Yeah, okay, great. But what else did he say there? He had the balls to throw the gigantic tax cut for the rich in our face on the back end. He's going to facilitate more corruption out of Congress on the back of a gigantic tax cut that he and his rich buddies just got. He's saying, look, there are unintended consequences. Sometimes people in Congress just get rich, right? We just got rich again with this gigantic tax cut, so maybe we get rich through stocks as well. Oh, well, I don't think we should change that. Yeah, that's what he just said. That's what he just said. We should not stop congresspeople from violating trade laws and, gaining gigantic wealth from business meetings that only they are privy to. We shouldn't stop that because, well, we're getting rich over here. So what does it matter if we get rich over here? I mean, and again, he's talking about, oh, Rick Scott made a great point. No, you don't have to sell your businesses. I just explained how you don't have to sell your businesses. And this modification that they're arguing about over this act, it also allows them to have ample time to get the best price for anything they do have to sell and to divest their stocks wisely. This modification that was added late, it allows them to wisely divest over time. So everything Rick Scott just said, invalid. And Ron Johnson's just being, he's just throwing it in our face. Who else is against this bill? Most of the Republicans were. Who else? Or this act. Who else was against it? Rand Paul.
Look, if this is a great bill, if this is the greatest thing since sliced bread and it's really necessary, it should apply to Donald Trump. But the fact that they don't want to apply it to Donald Trump means that it's a really crummy bill and it would do terrible things to Donald Trump's finances. So if this is a great bill, let's apply it to the president. And you will have a chance on that. So we will have a vote, and the next vote is going to be on the substitute. The substitute protects Donald Trump. The original bill does not protect Donald Trump. And so I hope everybody will think about that. I will oppose the substitute change because I think it should apply to everybody or nobody. It's kind of ridiculous. We're going to apply it to us and the president, and except for Donald Trump. To accept Donald Trump from this is crazy. It also excludes all the courts, all the staff. I frankly think that there are chiefs of staff on, the Armed Services Committee know a lot more about tank sales and plane sales and this and that way before anybody else does. That if you think there's a real problem with this, apply this to staff as well. I think the courts know. If I've got a decision coming up and it's Monsanto and I'm going to rule on a $1 billion case against Monsanto, should the people that work for the judge be included in this?
Don't take the bait. Don't take the bait. You heard what I heard. Him saying, hey, include Donald Trump in this. Why aren't you including Donald Trump in this? Don't take the bait. He's saying, hey, and by the way, that makes sense on its face, but wait. And he's saying, hey, why doesn't this include chiefs of staff who are also sitting in on these meetings? Why doesn't this include the courts, the judges who make decisions regarding large corporations? Why doesn't it include them? Okay, he's making sense on the surface, but what he's really doing is preventing more roadblocks for this to pass. It's a very savvy trick Rand Paul is using right there. He's actually making sense, but to what end? You see, the Republicans don't want this to pass. They don't want their gravy train to end. Okay, this passed this committee 8-7. The one Republican that came over was the one who introduced it, Josh Hawley. All the Democrats voted for it. Don't tell me we're the same. Don't tell me we're the same. All the Democrats voted for it. And by the way, Democrats have definitely gained through this, okay? Big time. As a matter of fact, the Democrats have made more money through these means than the Republicans have. And yet, they're all on board. And only one Republican is on board. So when you hear Rand Paul making sense for reasons this shouldn't pass, that's a savvy trick, Rand. You've been doing this a while, huh? It's a savvy trick. You make sense, but your ends are kill this bill. That's what you're trying to do. You don't want the gravy train to end. And then this morning, he really said some wacko crap. He doubled down this morning. Go ahead, Scotty. Yep.
I think we're going to discourage good people, successful people from holding office. Part of the bill, I do believe, would forbid the president immediately from buying and selling stocks, and it would exempt him from the divestiture part. Future presidents wouldn't be allowed to own things. So if Donald Trump were the next president, which some say he might run for a third term, but he would be forced to divest everything. He would have to sell all of his possessions. And I think Donald Trump's got a complicated, probably financial empire, and a lot of people just wouldn't want to sell it or get involved with all of that. You also don't want to sell it during a downturn. There's a lot of reasons it would discourage successful people. And I frankly think that some of the success of Donald Trump being president is that he was used to the world of high finance, used to making deals with large amounts of money. Yep. And I don't think we want to discourage people like that from holding office.
I do. Man, Rand Paul, you are good at this. He goes on this morning, he gets on messaging with Rick Scott and Ron Johnson. Hey, we don't want to discourage successful people. We want it swampier. But then he goes, hey, Don, pay attention to what I'm saying to you. You might have to divest immediately. And Don, I know you got plans for a third term. I'll get on TV and talk about it because I want you worried about that. If you truly want a third term, Don, this is going to apply to you. So basically what he's saying is if this should make it out of the Senate and out of the House, you got to veto this thing, Don. You got to veto it. This is no good. It's going to hurt you. Either way, it's going to hurt you. You got to kill it. Okay? You see his true colors? You see what he's doing? It's important you see this. It's important you see this. We're going to hear from Hawley again. Let's hear from Hawley again. It really develops into something that you can see it for what it is. You can see the Republicans' tricks for what they are. They do not want their gravy train to end. And here's Josh Hawley saying, I want your gravy train to end in this manner. Too much public pressure. Too much public pressure on this matter. Too many people see it for exactly what it is.
Let me just go back to it. Land is not an illiquid investment. It is not. It's explicitly exempted under the bill. The bill defines illiquid investments as an interest in private funds. Land is not considered as such, number one. Number two, Senator Paul brought up the hypothetical that if you're someone who's running for office and the stock market tanks, as soon as you get into office, you're stuck. Well, what this bill does, because people like Senator Paul and others have asked over and over for fairness, time to comply, it says that current office holders,
here we go,
the terms of the bill will take effect upon the beginning of their next term. So in that hypothetical that Senator Paul just raised, that, you find yourself suddenly locked into a 6-year term, you have to sell, you would not have to. You would have 6 years to comply. This is the same treatment for all office holders. Members of Congress, members of the House, it will take effect upon the beginning of their next term if they're reelected. Members of the Senate, it will take effect upon the beginning of their next term if they're reelected. The President, the Vice President, will take effect upon the beginning of their next term, and so on. So everyone is treated the same in that respect. They're allowed to come into compliance.
Do you see? He's laying it out for them. Don't worry about your liquid assets. Most of what you're complaining about is not covered here. And as far as your stock investments go, you've got all this time throughout your current term, your entire current term, to divest wisely and make your money. It's giving these guys and girls a chance to hit the reset button on this without hurting themselves. Who knows if they make it to another term, but in their current term, the entire duration of their current term, they can finish making their money. This is a chance for them to hit the reset button and do the right thing without hurting their own wallets. Hawley is giving them an out. Do the public's bidding. Do something they clearly want you to do without hurting yourself or your dear leader. How can you say no to this? The only people that would say no to this are people who want this illicit gravy train to continue. Period. Sorry, Republicans, it's your own guy. It's your own golden boy, Josh Hawley, doing this to you. Sorry. You know, the enforcement and compliance of this, it would go through an annual compliance certification, and it would be submitted to the House and Senate Ethics Committee. And the Government Accountability Office would perform audits every 2 years on each member. So every 2 years, there'd be an audit of what you do in the stocks, and then that would be submitted to the Ethics Committee. And that's how you stay in compliance, okay? If you go over, if you're found to be out of compliance in any way, the money you made would go to the Treasury, and there may be a few civil penalties. Not a big deal, to be honest with you. It's not like you get thrown in jail. You just got to comply with the ethics committees, right? It's not a big deal. Shouldn't be too big of a lift. I mentioned Alyssa Slotkin. Look, she laid it out. She wants to do the right thing. She knows this isn't perfect. Nothing is.
We have to accept that the American people think that all of us, Democrats and Republicans, are using our positions and our access to enrich ourselves. They think that when it comes to stock trading, and as you pointed out, Mr. Hawley, Democrats and Republicans, right? Just right now around Liberation Day, President Trump's big tariff day, 53 members made over 2,200 stock trades valuing at $34.9 million, between $34.9 million and $140 million. So it's happening on both sides of the aisle. And people don't believe that we are here for the right reasons. We have a problem. And in order to address that, I am willing to make the good work instead of waiting for the perfect.
Boom. She knows that Donald Trump right now should be held to these standards. She knows that. Okay? But she's allowing, as all the Democrats did, this modification that will give Trump a free pass for the remainder of this term. The good in exchange for the perfect. A perfect world, the courts, the chiefs of staff, the president, the vice president, they would all be included in this and adhere to it. That would be perfect. She'll take the good. I'll take the good. Hawley will take the good, which is, let's get this ball rolling right now, and none of you will be held to this standard during this term. He's making it as easy as possible for these people to do the right thing. Your illiquid assets are safe. We're giving you ample time to divest and make your money now.
Breaking politics, breaking narratives, breaking news. But first, we need a coffee break. Now back to Brett Breaks Things, smashing spin, silencing the noise, and keeping it all facts. No fluff.
Point out that when I decided to run for the Senate and I won, I sold all my marketable securities. I converted to cash. You know, that hasn't done real well in terms of investment. Now, my wife has, in the intervening years, bought a few ETFs. So I agree with the spirit of this. I don't think members of Congress, in my own case, I don't trade stocks. But if I would, it's fully disclosed. And I don't want to impose that on the members either to discourage people from the private sector to come here and serve. Again, we have too many career politicians. We don't have enough people who have experience in the private sector. We need more. We need to encourage them, not discourage them. This piece of legislation would be hugely discouraging.
Yeah. More oil barons, more mega corporation CEOs. You know? Yeah. Yeah. And he says, I agree with the spirit of this. Well, if you agree with the spirit of it, then vote for it. What's holding you up, Ron? The fact that we won't have more billionaires and millionaires from the private sector, that's what you're saying is holding us up? Let me tell you something, Ron. You probably can't relate to this. But people who are interested in coming to Congress to do the people's bidding aren't worried about their gravy train like you, Ron. They're worried about making this country better. Can I get more of them? You're saying we're going to discourage the private sector who may want to continue their millions and millions of dollars in investment gains from being a politician. Great. Why don't you get me the people who aren't worried about expanding their portfolio while in Congress? Why don't you get me the people who are all about the people and representing their needs and fears and interests? Great. I'm sorry, Ron, that particular argument sucks. It sucks. If you agree with the spirit of this, then vote for it. Oh, you didn't? Why? Why really? Okay. There was a little bit of a back and forth. During some of this. It got a little contentious in places. We're going to hear from Senator James Lankford, a Republican out of Oklahoma, voted no.
Some others come into it and say, hey, I have stock holdings. I'm not one of those, by the way. They would come in and say, I'm going to put all this in a qualified blind trust. They're prohibited from having communication with them. That person is actually managing it, and they're separated totally. This bill would say, no, you can't do that anymore. So if you have stocks, you can't put that in a qualified blind trust any longer. Why would that be?
A couple of things. Number one, if you have a qualified blind trust and you are a member of Congress, again, you have until the beginning of your next term, should the voters see fit to reelect you.
No, I get that. But then after that, it's prohibited on it. So
correct. So for those who know ahead of time that they're going to be joining this body, they can no longer use qualified blind trusts. And the reason for that is, as you know, the rules on qualified blind trusts are not airtight.
Oh.
They're actually very loose. It is very difficult to police.
Oh.
You don't police them, and the Ethics Committee.
Well, the Ethics Committee, thank you for mentioning that. Ethics Committee does police that. So thanks for telling me what I don't do. We do police that. But
you do not police the structure of the blind trust.
We do, actually. Every single blind trust that's actually put in has to be approved.
And they have to, and so and you police then the buying and the selling and the communication back and forth between members?
We do police the communication between the members and the individuals of the blind trust. That's correct.
And so you think that that's an effective way? You're saying you think we need no changes now. You think that effectively accounts for any sort of
again, this suddenly sounds like it's personal. You're telling me what I don't do.
No, I'm just asking you a question because what we found over and over is when members of Congress have been investigated for securities violations, they have said over and over, oh, I had a trust. I didn't really know anything about it. And then as it turns out, they're communicating with their trustee. And they say, oh, we're allowed to do that.
Shots fired. So what are they arguing about here? See, blind trusts are included in this. A blind trust, right? You have your money invested in a trust and you don't have any, not supposed to, have any communication with the trustee, the person in charge of that trust. You're supposed to just say, here, invest my money in this trust, do your thing, win or lose. I'm a congressman. I can't have anything to do with this, right? That's how the blind trust is supposed to work. Hawley's over here saying, no, we got to include this because the blind trusts aren't policed well. People are subverting the rules. And he's saying, and there's no oversight to this. And Lankford's saying, wait a second, I'm the chair of the Senate Ethics Committee. We police it. And Hawley's saying, no, you don't. Because he knows they don't. They all know that they skirt and go around the blind trust rules. And Hawley knows just how impotent the Ethics Committee is, especially this Republican-led one that's going to let their members do what they want, right? Hawley's saying, you're not policing this. I got to include this because you're not doing your job. And Lankford's saying, how dare you? How dare you? We do our job. I enjoyed that. A little back and forth. We're going to get some more of that. There's the Republicans fighting with each other over their gravy train of all things. Of course it's over money, right? If anything's going to split these people up, it's going to be the cash. Yeah, that one's fun. Here we go, though. Here we go. Skeletor is going to come back, and he's going to hit you. This dude has no idea what it's like to be an actual American living in this country right now. He is so insulated in his wealth and power that he has the balls to say things like this.
I own operating businesses. But somehow it's suspect because I made money. I don't know how many people in the audience, how many of you don't want to make money? Anybody want to be poor?
What?
I don't.
Excuse me?
right? So this idea that we're going to attack people because they make money is wrong. Is absolutely wrong. We should cherish all of our different backgrounds. Every one of us has a different background.
You mean DEI?
I've got a business background. But what I was just accused of is making money, and somehow I can't be fair and do things the right way.
Oh, wow.
So I think it's disgusting what is going on here.
Okay, Rick. Since you want to go there, let's go there. Let's go there. First, you say, who wants to be poor? I don't want to be poor. In terms of U.S. senators, who's the wealthiest? Who's the richest? Now, keep in mind, there are rules that prevent us from finding out the exact net worth of these people. There's offshore accounts, investments in different properties and different holdings that they can't really calculate. Plus, there's rules against telling you their exact figure if they knew them. So these are estimates. These are estimates. Fairly accurate, but estimates nonetheless. Keep that in mind. Who's the wealthiest, Rick? Who's least in danger of being poor, Rick? Number one, Rick Scott. $296 to $550 million net worth. Anywhere from $250 to $500 million in net worth. But he doesn't want to be poor. He doesn't want to be poor. Yeah, and those are conservative figures. Thank you, Scotty. And those are purposefully conservative. It's the way the rules are written. Purposefully conservative figures.
Maybe $1 billion.
So, yeah, there's rumors that he's up to a billionaire. I mean, how disconnected to the American people and their struggles, daily struggles, how hard it is to pay the rent, groceries, insurance, gas. Many Americans have to work 2 jobs to do it. If they have a kid or more, God forbid, I don't know how the numbers work out for many Americans. It just doesn't, considering that the minimum wage, the federal minimum wage, hasn't moved in years. Okay? But he, a possible billionaire, has the gumption to go up there and say, I don't want to be poor. Then he goes on to say, you don't trust me to make money the right way. You are the wrong guy to be bringing that argument up. You're the wrong guy, Rick. See, there was a Medicare fraud scandal involving Rick Scott. You see, Columbia HCA Healthcare, which he was the CEO of, and it was the largest for-profit hospital network in the 90s. It was under investigation for fraud. What were they accused of doing? Upcoding, billing Medicare, Medicaid for more serious and costly diagnoses and procedures than actually occurred. Unbundling, billing each step of certain procedures separately to increase the total charges. Okay? Kickbacks, illegally paying doctors to refer patients to Columbia HCA, and false cost reports, inflating their hospital operating costs to get larger Medicare reimbursements, all under his watch. The outcome? 14 criminal convictions, corporate, not personal to Rick. $1.7 billion in fines. Scott resigned in 97. By the way, he got a $10 million plus bailout. And he was not charged personally. Although, in a civil case concerning this matter, he took the fifth 75 times. And Rick Scott had him on his show at the time. Or Rick Sanchez, who was at the time with CNN, had him on for an interview. I'm just going to give you the juicy part.
You're copping to the fact that your company had to pay $1.7 billion, which is still the most ever paid in the history of the United States, right?
After I left, the company paid those fines. The company did not pay those fines when I was there.
But hold on.
And I bought.
No, you're playing with the facts, sir. Let me tell you what happened. These charges were charged against your company while you were there, while you were the boss, and it happened over a period of 10 years. Yes, they were paid after you left, but they accused them of happening while you were leading the company.
No, Skeletor. You were the CEO when this went down. Love you, Sanchez. Shout out to Rick Sanchez. No, held his feet right to the fire. He tried to wiggle out on that show, and now he's lost sight of it so badly that he actually said, you all don't trust me to do things the right way. No, we don't. We don't, Rick Scott, nor should we. You don't do things the right way. So no, we don't trust you to do things the right way. Of course Rick Scott voted no against this. Of course he did. Of course he did. The biggest fraudster in healthcare history is on to his next grift. He's in the middle of his next grift. And now here comes Josh Hawley to put the kibosh on his gravy train. No, not on Rick's watch. He's a no. He's a no. Man, isn't it uncomfortable being this on board with anything Josh Hawley does or says? I mean, it's just an uncomfortable space to occupy, but it's the right one right now. It's the right one right now. This is common sense legislation. This is a problem that has been systemic. It's been going on for a long time. The American people are aware of it. They want something to be done about it, and it's being done. And who's standing in the way? The Republicans.
We'll be back to break it all down. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things. You're back with Brett Breaks Things, because democracy doesn't defend itself.
Okay, we're going to show you a little bit more infighting. Well, this is infighting in the committee. This is actually just fighting, not infighting. This is just fighting. And you're going to hear this, and I don't want you to get confused like Scott and I got confused earlier today. We had to put both our brain cells together to really get into this and understand what we were looking at and what we were hearing. But man, are we glad we did. Are we glad we did? Because we saw clips of this, like the one we're about to show you, that really had our head scratching. But when you look at the overall picture of what the Republicans are doing, it makes perfect sense. Now, you're going to see Bernie Moreno, Republican, voted no, arguing with Gary Peters, Democrat out of Michigan, who voted yes. Okay, and they're arguing about this modification I keep talking about. Okay, the modification I keep talking about is this late amendment to this that will allow Trump the entire term to divest. All right. It doesn't include the courts. It doesn't include the chiefs of staff. It's going to allow all the congressmen, senators, and House to divest throughout this term. This is what the modification does. It's the Democrats trying to make this more palatable. Okay? They're trying to take Donald Trump's name out of it. So the hardline sycophants don't have a good reason to vote against it. Keep that in mind. Now, Moreno's going to be all upset here because he got the modification Friday way too late. Way too late. Peters isn't hearing it.
Senator, with all due respect, look, sending something out Friday through some random computer system is also disrespectful to the people on this committee. Why wouldn't you, if we're going to pass something, why wouldn't we have an intelligent conversation that says, hey, I'm the co-sponsor of the bill, that says, hey, this is what we're looking to change, and here's what it is, and read through it, and this is why we thought about it. Let's have a thoughtful meeting. Look, if we ran businesses this way, you wouldn't have to be an entrepreneur to run for office. You'd be flat broke. This is the most absurd process I've ever seen. And again, if we're talking about having faith in our institutions, this is, if you guys think this is normal, all of you have been here too long.
Well, Senator, we do use computers in the Senate. I know that might be kind of weird for you, but we do use those. And we send them to your staff, and your staff, my staff looks at the things that come in because it's on a markup, and we go through it. It's actually the bill that passed last session too, and that's what passed last Congress. This is what was in the substitute via computer, as odd as that may be for you, went via computer to your office. Your staff had a chance to look at. This is a minor change. And that's what we're talking about.
Before we're going to be disdainful of the point, we got the substitute on Friday. We got the modification when we walked in. The modification is what removes Donald Trump from the bill. It's a big change. The modification vote is what we're going to have. You're right. The substitute didn't include the president. Yes, the bill will treat Congress and the president equally in the bill with the modification. Without the modification, it treats the president immediately. We will be voting to modify the substitute to not have this bill apply to Donald Trump while he's in office. That is what the vote is before us. But I sort of resent you treating our members by saying, oh, you don't know about a computer? I mean, you know better.
Okay. Honestly, his little argument there about treating people, okay, fine. Maybe he shouldn't have taken shots at him like that. It's a little petty. But the point stands. Again, there is Rand Paul. pulling that sleight of hand, that bait and switch. Yeah. Hey, shouldn't we include Donald Trump? He knows that if you include Donald Trump, that maybe the left or independents will hear that and be like, yeah, this is no good. It doesn't include Donald Trump. That should be a good thing, right? Wrong. Taking Donald Trump, separating him from this, it no longer gives the hardline sycophants a reasonable excuse. If you're just a die-in-the-wool Trump guy or girl, this should be enticing to you, shouldn't it? We're taking Trump out. Shouldn't this be enticing to you? All that's left is, do you want to stop this trading from the Congress or don't you? Once we take Trump out of the equation, it should make it easier to pass. That's why Rand Paul's against it. That's why Bernie Moreno's against it. That's why Rick Scott is against it. They don't want it more palatable to their fellow congressmen in the Senate and the House. You see, now that it's passed the committee, the bill continues on. And the Democrats and Josh Hawley, they want to make this easier for Republicans to vote for by taking Trump out. Next, it goes to the Senate floor for scheduling, then cloture vote, 60 votes needed to limit the debate. Then it goes to floor debate and amendments, then the final Senate vote. Once it's through there, the House considers it, reconciles it with what the Senate had passed, and makes their own vote. If it should go through the Senate and through the House, it makes its way to Donald Trump's desk. That's also the long game of taking Donald Trump out of it. Because if it gets to his desk and he's not included, well, what's the problem, Don? What's the problem? See, you yourself think this is a good idea, don't you?
Of Congress from owning or trading individual stocks, it extends to the president and the vice president. Are you in favor of that legislation?
Well, I like it conceptually. I don't know
good.
about it, but I like it conceptually. And, Nancy Pelosi became rich by having inside information. She made a fortune with her husband, and I think that's disgraceful. So in that sense, I'd like it, but I'd have to really see I study these things very carefully, and this just happened. So I'll take a look at it. But conceptually, I like it. And what I do think is Nancy Pelosi should be investigated because she has the highest return of anybody practically in the history of Wall Street, save a few. How did that happen? It happened by she knows exactly what's going to happen, what's going to be announced. She buys stock, and then the stock goes up after the announcement's made. And she ought to be investigated.
Okay. All right. We got a lot to disseminate there. By the way, that's low energy Don. Forget low energy Jeb. That's low energy Don. He was pretty low energy all day. He went to another meeting and fell asleep with RFK Jr. among others in attendance. Fell asleep. Either his plug, his Ritalin dealer, either couldn't connect with him, his Adderall dealer couldn't link up with him, or something's going on with Don. He's super low energy. That aside, he says, I agree with this. I agree with this. Rand Paul heard that, right? He heard that, and he immediately ran to an interview and said, but if Don gets his third term, this is going to apply to Don as well. Don, are you listening? Because I heard you say you agree with this. Please don't agree with this. If this makes it to your desk, just know that if your plans of a third term come to fruition, this will apply to you too. Kill it. If it should go through the Senate and go through the House, you got to kill it, Don. You got to kill it. It's going to be the end of our gravy train. You got to kill it. And I know you heard him talking about Nancy Pelosi. I mean, they had to change the name of this bill. It was originally the PELOSI Act. They had to change it to the Honest Act. By the way, that's an acronym. Yeah, that's an acronym for halting ownership of non-ethical securities and trusts. Honest. So it's the Honest Act now. Yeah, it was... preventing elected. Yeah, it was. Yeah, thank you, Scott. It was the PELOSI Act, which is also an acronym, preventing elected leaders from owning securities and investments. The mental gymnastics. Yeah, good job, Republicans. That's good stuff. I'll give you credit. That is really good wordplay there. Okay. All right. We're not talking about Nancy Pelosi. We're talking about preventing elected leaders from owning securities and investments. Not Nancy. What are you talking about? Don't do that. No. Okay, so it's the Honest Act. But yeah, he's talking about Nancy. He's talking about Nancy. Now, there were some members of the House and the Senate that made a lot of money in terms of portfolio gains. Okay, we're talking about percentage of gains. Rep. David Rouser, 149% in 2024 alone. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, 142% gains. Ron Wyden, 123. Roger Williams, 112. Morgan McGarvey, 105. These are percentage gains, okay? The Democrats did better, percentage-wise, than the Republicans did lately. In 2024, the Democrats' portfolios went up 31% collectively, while the Republicans went up 26%. Maybe this is just petty by Josh Hawley, right? Like, let's stop the Democrats' gravy train. They're making more money than us. But in terms of Nancy Pelosi, okay, when you look at Nancy's gains, okay, there's something there. Pelosi's stock portfolio, which reflects trades filed under her name and those of her husband, earned an estimated 54% return in 2024 alone, outperforming the S&P's 500 25% across the board gain. Okay, and by mid-October of 2024, it's estimated it went even higher to 92.5%. Okay, Bloomberg and other financial outlets note that her husband's portfolio gain alone, just her husband, the gains ranged from anywhere between $7.8 million to $42.5 million. And when combined with her gains, $413 million gained by the Pelosi's over 2024, up to 2024. That, according to reporting, and that is why they are attaching her name to this. That is why Donald Trump is mentioning her name. That is why she's attached so fervently to what's going on here. And she responded.
Yeah, it was. Let me just read what he said. I'm sorry that we had some sort of technical issue. Nancy Pelosi became rich.
Why do you have to read that? We're here to talk about the 60th anniversary of Medicaid. That's what I agreed to come to talk about.
Yeah, but I wanted
what that means in the election.
I wanted to give you a chance just to respond. He accused you of insider trading. What's your response to that?
That's ridiculous. In fact, I very much support the stop the trading of members of Congress. Not that I think anybody's doing anything wrong. If they are prosecuted and they go to jail. But because of the confidence it instills in the American people, don't worry about this. But I have no concern about the obvious investments that had been made over time. I'm not into it. My husband is, but it isn't anything to do with anything insider. But the president has his own exposure, so he's always projecting. He's always projecting. And let's not give him any more time on that, please. We're going forward here, and I'm very proud of my family. And while he might make fun of us, while somebody inspired by him breaks into our home and hits my husband in a deadly fashion, hits my husband over the head,
she
and he
can
thinks
spin
that's
too.
a riot. I'd rather not go into some of my other complaints about him right now, rather to talk about the 60th anniversary of Medicaid.
Okay, so she wanted to talk about the 60th anniversary of Medicaid. Now, let's be fair on all sides here. First, Nancy Pelosi supports this bill. She supports it. She endorsed it. Miss 92% net gain on her portfolio over 2024 endorses the bill. Okay? Now, whether she's truly happy about that or not, that's irrelevant really, because she's doing the right thing. Okay? She might be a little, angsty about her gains going forward. Okay? But she's for it. Miss 92% gains is for the bill. First. Second, Nancy, don't complain about gotcha questions, okay? Do not complain about a gotcha question when you thought you were coming on to talk about the 60th anniversary of Medicaid, and now you're all upset because Jake's over here talking about this bill and Trump mentioning you. Don't do that, because we hit Trump with gotcha questions every single time he gets in front of a camera. He's sitting down with the Prime Minister of Bahrain. Trump, what about Epstein? He's sitting down with some guy from the Philippines or Singapore. Hey, Trump, your name's in the books. He's overseas. He's in Scotland. He's someplace else. Hey, Trump, what about those pictures you drew? Okay, so don't do that, Nancy, because we do it to Trump every single day. So he hit you with a gotcha question. So what? Boo-hoo. Boo-hoo. If you think Trump, I'm talking to you now. If you think Nancy Pelosi is in violation in some way, has broken the law in some way, then investigate her. Nobody's stopping you. It is not a weaponization of the DOJ to investigate a congressperson who you believe is in violation of trades, of making money in some way, violating some kind of rule or law. Then investigate her. If she's found guilty, I don't care. But you better investigate everybody you think is doing that if you're going to investigate Nancy, which is why you're not investigating Nancy. Because all of your sycophants and bootlickers and foot soldiers in Congress are going to go down too. That's why you're not investigating Nancy. Look, everybody listening to this, Democrat, Republican, Independent, every one of you loves how this bill sounds. Republicans, why are your leaders against it?
They'll try to repair the narrative, but Brett Breaks Things will be back tomorrow to break it all down.